Happy Earth Day, the 50th anniversary. It's a big deal. And welcome to Trinity Church of Austin. My name is Sid Hall and I'm the lead minister. Because of the quarantine related to the coronavirus and the City of Austin's stay-at-home order, we are streaming our service over the internet rather than holding in-person services. Please know that we are taking the coronavirus news seriously and we are closing our doors to gatherings for the foreseeable future. We will continue holding virtual services until the CDC and local authorities tell us it is safe to resume our in-person worship services and our activities. Phone numbers for texting prayer requests, email addresses for Pastoral Care, and instructions for supporting Trinity are in the description of the YouTube video, and it will appear on the screen. Many of us are at home right now, yearning for connections to sustain us. In days of old, and sometimes even now, letter writing was a way to stay connected when we were apart from those we love. So today we continue the Easter season series called I Want to Write You a Letter. And we are exploring the Apostle Paul's letters, and in some weeks we'll even pair them with famous letters from the modern era. The message today is entitled Midwives of Creation. At the end of our welcome time, we will light a candle to begin our worship service, and we'll create sacred space together. We'll do this every Sunday in our online worship. If you have a candle at home and would like to light it with us, please feel free to do so. Please know that whether we're meeting online or in person, at Trinity we believe that no matter who you are, who you love, what you believe or what you don't believe, you are welcome in this community. Welcome, friends, to the celebration.
Yep.
Hi, Trinity.
Hi, Trinity.
Hi, Trinity.
I'm Matt.
I'm Christine.
I'm Wyatt.
And while we haven't been able to go to the church building, we've been able to find church outside, seeing the plants and the trees and the birds and the bees and the animals as we go outside on our daily walks. Hey, Wyatt, what are some animals you've seen outside?
Geckos, which we call friends. Dogs, which are getting walked. And most of all, roly-polies.
Roly-polies.
You like to put them in your pockets, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen any birds?
I've seen the grackle.
The grackles. Do you want to do your grackle sound?
What?
That was good. Yeah. All right. So and to close. Oh, Christine, what have you been doing? Have you been looking at the plants?
Oh, I have a plant identification app, so I've been learning all of our local plants, and I can even spot poison ivy now.
That's exciting. And to close, we'd like Wyatt to read one of his favorite poems.
Ready?
Ready? Okay.
I thank you, God, for this amazing day, for the leaping green beards and trees and the blue clouds in the sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. By E.E. Cummings. Boop boop. Boop boop.
All right. All of our love.
Bye, Trinity.
Bye, Trinity.
We miss you.
We miss you.
Hi, I'm Tim Brace, Director of Music and Arts here at Trinity Church of Austin. I practice meditations from several different traditions, and we're bringing our practice of a weekly meditation in our early services at Trinity into the online services. This week, As we celebrate Earth Day, let us take a moment to prepare ourselves to connect with the natural world, as it is in us and we are in it. The mind makes categories and discerns differences very well. In order to see past that to the interconnectedness of all of nature, we need to quiet our mind and our senses. It is in this space that we can find our creativity and see, as the great Zen monk Thich Nhat Hanh says, our interbeing with each other and with all of nature. In some traditions, the way to happiness, to true understanding, to enlightenment, is not through adding or achieving, but rather through subtraction, through letting go. Let us begin. Sit comfortably. Find a place where your back and your rear and your feet are comfortable. Close your eyes. This shuts off the sense of sight. Find a quiet spot. If you don't have one right now, find one later and do this exercise. External quietness will shut off the sense of sound, the sense of hearing. Now focus on your body and relax each part in turn, starting from your feet. Relaxing the body will remove its needs, its discomfort, its pains from your mind for this moment. Relax your feet. Relax your calves and your knees. Slowly move up. Relax your thighs. Relax your rear end, your lower back. Move into your mid-back, up your spine, then down to your shoulders. Relax your shoulders. Down your arms into your hands. Back up your arms. Relax your shoulders again to the back of your neck, up into your skull, relax your mind. You might imagine a beam of light or energy going out of the top of your head, leaving your mind quiet and relaxed. You might rather find the spot behind and between your eyes. This is the area in some traditions that links our mind and our intuition to others. You might prefer to place your mind further back than that, against the back of your skull, opposite the forehead. From here, you can see all that is happening around you without being pulled in and carried away. Now rest your mind. When you're ready, take a deep breath, reconnect with your body. Open your eyes, reconnect visually with everything that's around you. One more deep breath. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Mark Moore, the Associate Minister here at Trinity. We received dozens of prayers during this part of the service, so please keep your prayers brief as you text them in. If we don't get to your prayer in the time allotted, please feel free to enter it into the chat box on the YouTube channel that you're watching. And note that we record all of these prayers and go over them again later as a staff. And so I invite you now into a time and an attitude of prayer. Are there prayers that you would offer for our lives and our community? Please text your prayers to 512-766-3123. Prayers this morning for Doug Upchurch, having terrible pain from his bone strengthening medicine related to chemo and cancer. And prayers for first responders, healthcare workers, and others on the front line whose jobs do not let them quarantine. Prayers for all those in detention centers and prisons who are not a risk to society, but are stuck in these environments that don't have adequate protection and make physical distancing impossible. And prayers for asylum seekers stuck in primitive camps on the Mexican side of the border. Healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. For Irene Parkinson in England, she is very ill, not at the virus, and is being released from hospital due to overcrowding. Healing and joyful spirit. Susan Sprague continues in skilled nursing at Brookdale in Lakeway. She has started to do better in the last couple of days after 3 weeks of being there, and will be there at least a couple of more weeks. Cards would be good. And for the life of Sue Anders, Brendan's grandmother and Addie's great-grandmother, who died this week after a brief cancer journey. Healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. Prayers for Thanksgiving for Jerry Neva and a recovery from sciatica, which requires her to use a walker. Also, that she stays safe from the coronavirus. And prayers for all of us as we envision a new and better future. Healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. And pray for everyone who is going through difficult times with the coronavirus, and pray that it goes away. Healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. A prayer for Chloe. Healing and joyful spirit, receive our prayers. Let us hold these prayers now, cradled in the silence of our hearts, for a moment of silence. Hear now this version of Jesus prayer from New Zealand that incorporates images of the Maori and Polynesian cultures. Eternal Spirit, Earth Maker, Pain Bearer, Life Giver, source of all that is and that shall be, Father and Mother of us all, loving God, in whom is heaven. The hallowing of your name echo through the universe. The way of your justice be followed by the peoples of the world. Your heavenly will be done by all created beings. Your commonwealth of peace and freedom sustain our hope and come on earth. With the bread we need for today, feed us. In the hurts we absorb from one another, forgive us. In times of temptation and test, strengthen us. From trial too great to endure, spare us. From the grip of all that is evil, free us. For you reign in the glory of the power that is love, now and forever. Amen.
For our song of reflection, let us sing together the song Out Beyond Ideas by David Wilcox, set to the poetry of the great Sufi poet Rumi. Carol Lewis is going to lead us in a body prayer for the chorus of the song, which says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Please stand in body and or spirit as you are so moved.
Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about ideas and language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there.
Hi, my name is Paula Bowles. My wife Serafina and I have been attending Trinity Church of Austin for about 10 years. I felt drawn to Trinity because of its message of inclusion, social justice, and its rootedness in a historical context of understanding.
Hi everyone, this is Joe. This is the first time I've had to do this. I linked the wrong video there, so we're gonna get a little double dose of the song. Just give me 1 second to fix that mistake. My bad, guys. I'm sorry. uh... One second, making sure that I grab the right file this time. Okay, this is the correct one. You guys are gonna get a double dose of the Out Beyond Ideas song, but other than that, everything will go back to normal. My bad, y'all. Here we go.
For our song of reflection, let us Out Beyond Ideas by David Wilcox, set to the poetry of the great Sufi poet Rumi. Carol Lewis is going to lead us in a body prayer for the chorus of the song, which says, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." Please stand in body and or spirit as you are so moved.
Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about ideas and language. Even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there.
Hello, my name's Jen Algola. My boys and myself have been attending Trinity Church for about 3 years now. We couldn't be more blessed to have found such a loving and rich community of faith, and our spiritual growth with this community has been incredible, and I look forward to many more years to come. And again, we're just so blessed. Thank you for being a part of our family. The reading I'm sharing with you today comes from Romans 8:19 through 24. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not of its own will, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to decay and will obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now, and not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly while we wait for adoption, the redemption of our bodies. For in hope we were liberated. Now hope that is seen is not hope, for who hopes for what is seen? The second reading comes from Jim Antle, excerpt from the Climate Church, Climate World, paragraph 1 and 2. Lynn White writes that more science and more technology are not going to get us out of the present ecological crisis until we find a new religion or rethink our old one. The world, each fragment as well as the whole, is a window into the love of God. Every moment we are given provides an opportunity to appreciate the gift of the world that God so loves. As God's children, we are entrusted with the responsibility to protect God's creation. I invite people of faith, together in their faith communities, to accept that God has called us to bear witness in a time such as this, a time when the continuity of God's creation is in jeopardy. I suggest that the enormity of this moral crisis constitutes a theological emergency. To resolve this emergency, God is calling the church to initiate a moral intervention. As the church engages this calling, it will undergo what Brian McLaren calls a spiritual migration. By repurposing our current social and economic systems, the church will prompt humanity to transition to a new moral era that honors and sustains God's gift of creation.
This is a song from the group Spirit. It's a song written by Randy California, and it's called Nature's Way. It was released in 1970, which is also the year of the first Earth Day. I think the lyrics will show the influence of that movement upon this piece. It's nature's way of telling you something's wrong. Nature's way of telling you in a song. It's nature's way of receiving you. It's nature's way of retrieving you. It's nature's way of telling you something's wrong. It's nature's way of telling you soon we'll freeze. It's nature's way of telling you dying trees. It's nature's way of receiving you. It's nature's way of retrieving you. Nature's way of telling you something's wrong. It's nature's way, it's nature's way. It's nature's way, it's nature's way. It's nature's way of telling you something's wrong. It's nature's way of telling you in a song. It's nature's way of receiving you. It's nature's way of retrieving you. It's nature's way of telling you something's wrong. Something's wrong.
In the late 1960s, I joined a Boy Scout troop, and one of the first things that we did was set out on a project for the environment. And I have to admit that as an 11-year-old, I did not have any real concept of connection to the environment. But I remember that our scoutmaster talked about one evening how, as scouts, we were to uphold the scout law and to be moral examples. And what better way to be a moral example than by helping take care of the environment? We had something called Project SOAR, S-O-A-R, Save Our American Resources. And I remember that years later when I received my Eagle Award, I wanted to have on my sash not just the merit badges, but the patch that said Save Our American Resources, because that had been a core part of my understanding of what it meant to be not just a Boy Scout, but a human being living in the world. Today is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Interesting that it happened right around the time that I was joining Boy Scouts, though I wasn't aware of Earth Day at that time. And over the years, I've asked, what is the church's response? Who are we in light of the environmental crisis? Who are we in light of the earth? I think that's one of the draws of creation-centered spirituality to me. Creation spirituality says that divinity permeates all things. It's not just in us as people, but in the earth itself, and in the trees and the plants and the animal world. All these are reflections back of divinity's imprint. And so it's important that we see ourselves as part of each other and connected, not just from a saving the earth perspective, but from the perspective of spirituality, our own understanding of divinity. When we think of creation stories and creation texts in the Bible, at least for me, my usual place to go first is Genesis, and sometimes some of the Psalms that reflect the beauty of the earth and all that's within it. And of course, Psalm 24, which says the earth belongs to God and everything that is in it. That's a powerful, powerful statement. But I tend not to think of the New Testament as being a resource for tapping into how we are to be connected to the earth and to take care of the earth. Until I started unraveling it a bit. One of my favorite authors of recent discovery is a person named Peter Crawford, who talks about how Jesus was a nature-based shaman. And I remember when I heard that, I thought, oh, how interesting. I've never thought of Jesus in that context. But he points out how Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River and then felt a calling immediately from the Spirit that sent him into the wilderness, what we might call today in more indigenous circles, a vision quest. And there he wrestled and struggled to come up with who he was, his identity, which would define everything that he did after that. And then, as a Galilean, very far north of Jerusalem and filled with verdant hills and valleys, a place of growing things, Jesus got most of the content of his parables. That is where he was from, Nazareth in Galilee, and he walked those fields and fished those lakes, and he used those images and those stories as a way to teach about a kingdom within, and a kingdom that was absolutely separate from the domination powers of Rome and patriarchy. He saw the earth as his teaching classroom. And so the disciples who were from that same Galilean culture absorbed that. It's only in the last of Jesus' ministry, maybe even the last week, that he enters into Jerusalem, where he had to speak truth to power. But everything before that represents a connection with the earth. And so Crawford talks about how Jesus, not just in his upbringing, but in his very core teaching, was about connecting us to stories of the earth and the fields and the lakes and the streams. One of the things that I will never forget is teaching at a young person's camp. I guess they were middle schoolers or maybe late elementary school. And the camp was called Caring for Our Earth, which is a great week-long camp for young people. And I was one of the counselors, and I think my own kids were there at the same time. And I was assigned to a group, and we were given a scripture passage that we were to take back to our small group of kids, and then the kids were to take that and turn it into a play or some sort of skit that we would do with the larger group. And so I was handed a passage, and it was the Good Samaritan story about Jesus telling the story of a person walking along the road and then being beat up and left to die on the side of the road. And some of the religious leaders and others found excuses to walk on by. But the Samaritan, who were seen as second-class citizens by Judeans at that day, was the one that stopped and picked up the person and took care of it. And I remember looking at the passage and thinking, what in the world am I going to do with this passage in relationship with the environment? And so I did what a lot of clergy are used to doing when I don't know the answer. I turned to the larger group, which in this case were a group of young people, and I said, what would you all do with this passage in relationship to the earth? And I'll never forget a young girl who said, oh, I know exactly what to do. And she began to talk about how it was the earth that had been discarded and beat up and left on the side of the road. And how there were those that were on the way to a recycling plant, so they didn't have time to stop and help the earth. And there were those that had other tasks that required of them to be responsible, and so that they didn't have the time. But it was the one who was most closely related to the earth, who understood the pain of being discarded, that reached over and picked up the earth and took her in her arms and carried her to a place to begin to heal her wounds. And I mean, when I heard her describing that without any prompting, without having any opportunity to think about it ahead of time, I was near tears. I thought, how does the wisdom like this come? And it comes from a child, is what it does. And so I think about that frequently when I think of Earth Day. What does it mean for us to have the courage to stop what we're doing, moving down the road so quickly, of whatever road that is in our life, and stopping and noticing on the side of the road, the earth itself discarded. One of the things I love about the passage that was read just a few moments ago from Romans is that we sure don't think of Paul as being nature-based or earth-centered either. And yet in this passage from Romans, Paul says that creation itself waits in eager longing for a new birthing, for the children of God to take it up and be part of its midwifery, of its birthing into something new. Now we know that Paul had the idea that the earth as we understood it was going to be ending soon. He felt like that the culmination of history, the consummation of God's goodness was surely coming to an end, and he could point to all the oppression from the Romans and the Greeks, and how how all that ran counter, and these were the signs of the end that meant that a new heaven and earth would be formed. And he believed that the church was part of the birthing of that. But what I love most is he doesn't just leave it in the intellectual. He talks about the earth itself, or creation. He talks about the role of the church, and he also talks about the Spirit, and that somehow the three of those together are in collaboration to create something altogether new, to give birth to a child, and this groaning of birth pangs are where we are in that moment. And the one who hopes in that is the one who is able to be a participant in that birthing. Meister Eckhart, later in the Middle Ages, wrote that God is lying on a maternity bed, and that we are all called to be midwives of the new earth and the new world, and of God's self. And so I think of the power of that, of what it means to live that out. The quote that we heard just a few moments ago from Jim Antle quotes a woman named Lynn White, and she says this: more science and more technology are not going to get us out of the present ecological crisis until we find a new religion or rethink our old one. That's very powerful to me. What I know is that we have the roots to rethink that right here within our own tradition. Not just the stories of Genesis, of creation, where we're called to till and keep it, or not just the praise of the Psalms that recognizes the beauty in all the earth, and not just Jesus as a first century shamanic, nature-based preacher, but even here in Paul, where we're called on in our present day, whatever day that is, to help give birth to what is yet to come. One of the things that I love about Austin is that we have lots of people working on these things. I got to Austin just about the time that the Save Our Springs Coalition was coming into being, and saw what it meant for hands-on, right here, present, for groups of people to be pushing back against development, to be pushing back against the bigger is better model, and saying, hey, let's remember the incredible resources we have. Barton Springs and the chain of lakes and all these beautiful trees in the hill country. But this is who we are, and without this, Austin is not Austin. And I'm one of those faithful people that watches Jim Spencer, our meteorologist on KXAN, and I think that the reason I watch that news cast every day rather than some other one is because of Jim Spencer himself. And one of the things that he does over and over again, if you watch him, you'll notice this. He will say, well, and this is because of climate change, or this is because of global warming. And don't you know that being a public figure like that on the TV every night, that he's getting pushback. He's getting people writing hate letters. Why do you have to be so political? Why do you have to always be talking about climate change and global warming? But it's clear to me that he sees it as a calling. He is a meteorologist, but his calling is caring for the earth. And that to me is very powerful. One of the things that creation spirituality has taught me over the years is that we are not just caretakers of the earth. We are the earth. Humans have this sense of being apart from, or above, or outside, that we're called in mission to take care of the earth, to pick up our trash, to recycle. And all of that's really good, but it can leave us with a sense of being above or separate. We're imparting upon the earth good things or bad things. But what if we began to reframe our understanding and saw ourselves as part of the earth, that we are the earth. We are, as the Bible says, made from dust, and to dust we shall return. You can't get any more earthy than that. The word human and humus are interconnected. They are from the same root. We are the earth itself. And so in giving birth to what is coming, as Paul calls us to do, we get to see ourselves not as just caretakers of what is to come, but it is our own liberation itself. We are all liberated. Everything and everyone is connected. One of my favorite theologians is Charles Hartshorne. Hartshorne taught at University of Chicago and Yale and Harvard, but his last years he was a part of the University of Texas, and so was a very active member at First Unitarian Church here in Austin. Hartshorne believed that creation was not a finished product. In fact, he pointed to how in the Hebrew version of Genesis 1, it doesn't say in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That's the Greek Septuagint version. But the Hebrew version actually reads something like, when God began to create the heavens and the earth, God said, let there be light. That's a slight difference. And that indicates, as Hartshorne says, is that God was in existence before there was a heaven and earth, that was the beginning, something that was previously not thought of. And the earth came along. And the reason that's important for Hartshorne is he says that everything wasn't finished in 7 days. It's still happening. It is still being birthed. And when we look at things like evolution and the origin of the species and how species are dying and being born and out of new things and out of new environments, we recognize that this creation is a dynamic process. What if we, as a part of creation itself, got to see ourselves as birthers of the new, of what is yet to come, of what is yet to be made whole? One of the things that's happened during the coronavirus, and I know you have felt this too, is we've seen photos of Los Angeles, for instance, after 3 days into the stay-at-home order, when no cars or very few cars were on the freeway, when factories were closed, they had clear skies. We've seen pictures of Wuhan, China at night when the factories were closed. And that smog that we've said can take 50, 100 years to recover from was already dissipated and clear. Doesn't mean that things are fixed. We've got a lot of work to do. But it just reminds us that if humans can figure out how to quit moving so fast down the road that we're moving and stop every once in a while and look at the earth lying on its side, bleeding, and see ourselves as part of the solution, then something new can happen. One of the great songs, and you just heard Tim do this, is Spirit's song, it's Nature's Way. And Randy California in 1970 was an environmentalist when he wrote the song. And I still love the words where he says, it's nature's way of telling you something's wrong. It's nature's way of telling you in a song. It's nature's way of receiving you. It's nature's way of retrieving you. It's nature's way of telling you something's wrong. It's nature's way of telling you summer breeze. It's nature's way of telling you dying trees. It's nature's way. It's nature's way. It's nature's way. It's nature's way. Well, Paul reminds us in Romans that it's God's way to be birthers of creation as well. And God's way calls on each of us to know that we have a part. My scoutmaster long ago said that being a good scout, being a person of moral value, means that you take care of the environment. I believe on this Earth Day, on this 50th anniversary, where we don't just celebrate it one day a year and say, oh, what a good thing we're doing, or whatever. This is a chance for us to see ourselves as part of the labor pains of something new, something beautiful, something whole that includes all of creation. And it's not just the work of nature, but it's the work of God in nature and us as co-creators with God to bring about a new world. And so I call on you, my dear friends, to find nature's way within your own heart and be part of that solution rather than the problem. Amen.
Let us sing together. The hymn, Celebrate the Good Creation, was written by Jan Aldridge Clanton to a traditional Welsh tune that dates from at least as far back as the 18th century. Jan Aldridge Clanton is a native Texan. She is an ordained minister and has published several collections of new hymns. She excels at taking traditional hymn melodies and reinvigorating them with lyrics that emphasize social justice and inclusiveness, especially with regard to speaking the female voice of the divine. Please stand in body and/or spirit as you are moved to do so. The lyrics will appear on your screen. Celebrate the good creation all through the world. Everyone in every nation all through the world. Celebrate the Spirit flowing in each person. Sacred image each is showing all through the world. Celebrate our forms and races all through the world. Varied families, varied faces all through the world. Different forms of love are freeing all creation's ways of being, giving us new ways of seeing all through the world. Sisters, brothers, join in caring all through the world. Works of peace and justice daring all through the world. Every open pathways now revealing all through the world.
Now's the time we bring forth our offerings. In our worship space at Trinity, we always have two opportunities for our offerings: a wooden bowl for our offerings to the programs and ministries of Trinity, the things that make it special in the neighborhood. And that's so critical at this time for us to be able to honor our commitments to our children's workers and our hourly staff, and making our facilities available to Hope Food Pantry and the Homeless Task Force. And we also have a woven basket for a special offering each week. And for some time to come, we will be calling this special offering Trinity Cares. And it'll go to support Trinity's families who are struggling financially during this COVID-19 crisis. Now, there are several ways that you can give to Trinity. You can go to our website at www.trinitychurchofaustin.org and scroll down that page to look at the options there. Or you can download the Give Plus mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play. Or you can text to Trinity at 512-967-0292 to give your offering that way. And if you include the keyword special, that will go to the Trinity Cares special offering. Now, bless you if you want to give to both the general fund and the special offering. Send two texts, one with the keyword special and one without. Please send your most generous offerings to Trinity.
Hey Trinity, this is Gus. I'm the intern minister, and I have a few announcements before we end our service today. First, you can reach out for Pastoral Care. Sid's cell phone is in the description and of the video and on the screen right now. You can also email your pastoral care concerns if you have any needs at all to pastoralcare@trinitychurchofaustin.org. And that email goes directly to myself, Sid, and Mark. They're just the ministerial staff only. So you can directly reach out there. The second announcement is that you can still donate to the Hope Food Pantry, which is going on at our church. They're really packing that church full of food and doing a lot of great work. So go to hopefoodpantryaustin.org. The link's on the screen and in the description. You can donate to them directly to support that great ministry. The third thing is Sid's Coffee and Conversation. That's every Thursday at 10:30 in the morning. And you're welcome to join that. The link is in the email, or you can email the church at office@trinitychurchofaustin.org to get that link directly. And the final thing is, again, to remind you of the class that I've been teaching. We had our first meeting last Wednesday where we walked through gender in Genesis 1. And we'll be looking this next Wednesday night at symbols of gender in the creation of Adam and and how the whole splitting into man and woman happened and what that's all about. And we'll be looking particularly at gendered nouns and gender ideas in that story. So if you'd like to join that too, the link is in the email, or email me directly actually at gus@trinitychurchofaustin.org. That's all I have.
Hello Trinity friends, I am so happy to be here with you today and give you an update on our financial status. My name is Valerie Ward and I am on the Trinity Leadership Council Finance Committee. I strongly believe that financial transparency and communication are a vital part of connecting our congregation to what we do. All of you contribute to and hopefully benefit from the work we do at Trinity, and your financial support is so crucial to that work. I want to make the financial operations of Trinity more transparent to everyone so we can celebrate our successes and reach our goals together. Trinity has bills to pay just like anyone else. We have to pay the mortgage on the building, utilities, building upkeep, insurance, staff salaries. This is in addition to the causes we support through the weekly special offerings like Austin Interfaith or the Trinity Cares Fund, which helps families directly within our congregation facing difficulties in the midst of this pandemic. We pay Trinity's bills from money collected from our regular pledges and offerings, from special fundraisers, and from rental income from other groups that use our space. Last year, we received $258,641 in giving to support the day-to-day ministries of our church. We received $3,925 through fundraising and $97,112 through rental income from the various groups that share our space. As you can see, over 2/3 of what keeps our church and community running is your generous gifts. And where does all the money go? About 65% goes to staff salaries, 10% to mortgage and building maintenance, and the rest to various other costs like utilities and office expenses. As we closed our doors last month to flatten the curve in the face of COVID-19, we were worried about what that might mean for our pledges and offerings, the bulk of what keeps Trinity open. Would we be able to pay our bills and keep our space available for the essential services that are still using our building, like the Hope Food Pantry, which serves 2,000 people each week? Would we be able to pay the salaries of our dedicated staff who are still working to bring you services every Sunday? Well, I'm happy to report that you have really come through in our time of need. Our March offerings and pledges were higher than anticipated. Many of you have switched your giving to online through the Give Plus app when you couldn't drop a check in the offering basket. You've proved that even when we're physically apart, we're still together and we can come through to support our shared mission. Those of you who have maintained or increased your giving, thank you so much. Those of you who were not able to give as much or at all, you know that we see you and we're with you in your time of struggle. Your virtual presence and your love are as valuable as ever, and we are grateful that our members are able to give what they can. As we approach summer, with the future and our new normal, what will that look like is still unclear, we ask for your continued support through your prayers, your virtual presence, your gifts, and your service, whatever you have to give. We usually make it through the summer with help from our summer camp rentals, totaling about $15,000 in income. But this summer, that income is uncertain. With careful consideration of your situation and resources, if you are able to help make up that difference, it will be a blessing to all those who benefit from the good work that Trinity does. Everything you give to Trinity is a true gift, whether it's your time, your talent, your financial support, or just your loving spirit. Thank you so much for all you give.
And now, may the peace of God go with us. May the power of God sustain us. And may the love of God keep us together forever.